The episode you're about to hear is authorised by me, Kate Hulett, at 106 High Street Mall, Fremantle.
I've got another 3 years, got to make the most of it, and then whatever comes afterwards, at least I've planted the seed within Australians to think you can break the two major party duopoly.
It's
you
huge.
can get
That was
outside
huge.
that. Your vote is not wasted when you vote for an independent. Your vote actually, with our preferential voting system, can actually have a more powerful message that it can send to the major parties so that you're not taken for granted.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
This is A Piece of Kate. I'm Emma Pegram.
And I'm Kate Hulett.
We are recording on Wednesday afternoon at, I don't know the pronunciation, Kalidra Park?
We're
Do you
just
know if
in
there's
front
another-
of Coogee Power Station.
Yeah.
South Coogee. South Fremantle Power Station. By the little beach on the southern side.
It's the most beautiful afternoon. I forgot that
It's
the
dead
ocean
calm.
exists.
We're by the ocean. It's like 27 degrees. The
It's-
sun's low in the afternoon sky.
So spectacular. I mean, the water's like opal, and there's people just relaxing on the beach, and
The light on the power station
I know.
is like something else.
I know, it's so beautiful.
There's yachts on the horizon, some ships in Gauge Roads.
Just
you
to
can see
set
the
the scene.
cranes of Fremantle. It's magic. We are sitting in a magical
Yeah.
scene.
I know, it's gorgeous.
Okay, and that's it, everybody. Thanks for tuning
Now
in.
into the really shit part. No, no, actually, not into the shit part. Into the great part, which is that you just had a little meeting in the street, an on-purpose meeting in the street, with the one and only Fatima Payman.
Yeah. We have been trying to catch each other for the last couple of weeks. She's jetting around the country because she's formed her new party, Australia's Voice. And so she's been shooting around, talking to her candidates and repping. And yeah, so we missed each other at Coburn Central today. We were both there at different times, and then we were able to coordinate a meeting in Fremantle, and we had a really fab chat. I mean, obviously I had 20,000 questions for her about her experience.
Of course.
I will certainly follow that up with a coffee, but yeah, we'll play some now. But we, in short, Fatima was effectively expelled from the Labor Party for holding her ground on a particular issue, which was around the war in Gaza. And she talked about that experience and kind of what's happened subsequently, what she sees, the future of the Parliament and what she's excited about. And she really talked so passionately and excitedly about the prospect of independence and what that means and the impact on government from the strengthening of democracy and betterment of the laws and legislation and all that sort of stuff. So she was just, she's in her late 20s, I think, and she's just absolutely killing it,
So
She's
remarkable, so brave.
smart and dedicated and kind of, she entered politics, with that ideal of working on the big problems and representing her community, and then she found that she was unable to do that effectively through the major party. And so she's, of course, advocating for independence, and she's really enthusiastic. So you started Australia's Voice 4 months ago.
So I launched it in October,
Yeah.
but we were registered
Registered.
by the AEC late December.
Okay. And prior to that, you started your life as a politician
With the Labor Party in
Yeah.
2022. So I was number 3 on the Senate ticket. They told me, you're not going to win it because since 1984, the Labor Party hasn't won the 3rd Senate spot. And I was like, that's great. At 27, I don't want to
That's
win
crazy,
this
yeah.
seat. Like, it's a lot of pressure.
Had you been a part of the Labor Party for a
Yeah,
long time?
I'd been a paying member for a while and obviously had made up, gone through the ranks in terms of Young Labour, was Equity and Diversity Officer, then moved on to being the President. Did my time as an electorate officer for an upper house member actually here in Hilton. and then moved on to the United Workers Union as an organizer.
Yeah.
And before
So
you knew
your pathway was...
but it was never meant to be in terms of like, I didn't set my eyes to becoming a politician. I was like, I'm young, I'm passionate, I want to sort of...
I really care.
Yeah, I care about what young people are talking about, but also I want to make a difference, you know, I want to be part of the change. And knowing that there was, you know, a coalition government the last 9 years, we're like, oh, let's get rid of it, you know. So we campaigned really hard in the 2022 federal election, and hence Anthony Albanese got in, and it was like, oh my God, let's get some solid progressive reform in.
And it felt
and
so
lo and
exciting.
behold,
But it felt so exciting.
I know, we're also just gutted. We're just devastated at what happened. And so here we are today.
So then your experience, you know, I guess can you kind of describe I've got so many questions about this. I guess what's happening in Palestine was the crux of what kind of fractured between you and the Labor Party. And can you just
when you're part of a caucus, obviously I knew that, you know, caucus solidarity is important. But for me, I also thought that having a young hijab-wearing senator who's, you know, who brings a fresh perspective to the table, that my values would be appreciated. Yeah. But I didn't know that there was this whole silencing attempt or trying to just gag every effort when I was making calls for humanity. Not necessarily for just the genocide to end, but I was just like, guys, this isn't our party platform. Like, we already have a position on this. We've got members from various branches, including Fremantle, who are being super vocal within the Labor Party, saying, we've got to do more than just issue empty statements. And even to those who think, oh, why should I care about a genocide that's happening miles away from Australia? Well, we were funding it. You know, our taxpayer dollars were going there and funding the genocide. So it's like, even if you don't care about the human tragedy, at least care about the fact that your taxpayer dollars could be helping our healthcare here onshore. It could be helping our education system. It could be helping our hospitals, our schools, our roads, just so much infrastructure that we need support with instead of funding a genocide. So I think there was a moment in time where I was like, do I put politics over principle? Because I was told, hey, if you hang in there, you have a chance of becoming a minister. So if this was just for me, if I really wanted to just pursue a career in politics for selfish reasons, I would have shut up. I would have just done as I was told. But for me, it was beyond that, you know.
We spoke to Richard Dennis yesterday, and he says, you know, the major parties literally get together and discuss stuff that they don't want to talk about or they do want to talk about. And I was like, what? And I'm interested to know how, you know, if you say, I really care about this issue, how does that work for them to say, don't talk about it? Or how are you not permitted to, or what's the mechanism?
So during our caucus meetings, we would obviously get together, but they would say, this is the position that we've got, and you sort of stick with it. I was in the left faction of the Labor Party, so we had separate caucus meetings. Okay. And obviously during those, I would say, guys, I'm from WA, we're actually seeing a lot of our members resign and leave the party. Like, the least we could do is just listen to them. Yeah. You know, people would rock up outside of our offices. I would let them in and say, hey, come, let's have a chat. I want to hear you out. I mean, that's the least we could do, just hear you out. Even, I can't promise you anything, but I can hear you out. And I would tell my colleagues, hey guys, they just bring them in, give them a cup of tea and listen to them. And they'd be like, oh, but we've been advocates, they shouldn't be protesting outside our offices. And it's like, they have reached this point because they feel like no matter how many times they write to you, they call your office, they can't get access to you. They cannot get their point across. So just open your doors, let them in.
Imagine being schooled by a 27-year-old.
But that's it. You know, it's like so where's obvious. Your humanity though? Like, it's not rocket science, right? I mean, especially when we were advocating for Ukraine. Hey mate, how you going?
Fatima.
Yes, lovely to meet you. Yeah. Appreciate it. If you haven't voted already,
I've done already.
Beautiful, Australia's voice, and you've got Kate as your independent.
Yep, I'll vote for you too.
Oh, what a legend. Yep. Thank you.
Lovely meeting
Thanks
you, mate.
so much.
All the very best.
Good on you. Thanks
Keep
for stopping.
Strong.
Yes, the people protesting outside of offices don't want to be there.
No.
They've got other things to do.
The last measure, you
Yeah,
know, the
they're
last
desperate.
hope, that last, you know, cries of desperation saying, please listen to us, please do something. We're sick and tired of seeing a genocide live streamed on our phones. But again, it comes down to where are our politicians' priorities. We should be serving our everyday Australians. But you know what they do? Labor and Liberals get together and they secure a solid paycheck for themselves when they lose their seats. So let's say Josh Wilson loses the seat in Fremantle, he'll get $120,000 plus 3 return flights to Canberra paid by your taxpayer dollars. Go figure. In a cost of living crisis, when the two major parties sit there crying and saying, we don't have money to increase job seeker, we don't have money to increase youth allowance or pension payments, but they've got enough money to give to their incumbent MPs and senators who lose their seats.
What they get that as a?
Oh, it's called a resettlement allowance. And when I put a motion up in the Senate saying, guys, let's get rid of this, at least because we've got a cost of living crisis.
Like a thank you at the end of your job.
Yeah. You get fired from your job, Kate. Which other job do you get fired and you get a fat paycheck?
Pretty good.
Yeah, you know, like it's insane.
Wow.
A rort like that. And then Labor, Liberal and Pauline Hanson's One Nation voted down when I say we got to get rid of it. Like, right? Like that tells
so
you where
much,
their
isn't it?
priorities are, and that's why we need independent voices who are accountable to the constituents and the community. So that they can come to you and say, hey, Kate, we gave you our votes. What are you doing for this? Allow us to air our grievances with you or concerns with you, and you can take it to Canberra, you know?
Yeah. So you got to the point where you said, I have to speak out for this.
yeah.
I cannot be silent anymore. So you did incredibly bravely. I mean, it blew up the internet. Everyone was so proud of you.
Thank you.
I had a petition in my shop actually for
darling,
you.
thanks.
And we were collecting signatures. and then you effectively got expelled, or how did that work?
So if I was anyone else, I would have been expelled on the spot. But because I had such an appeal within demographics that the Labor Party did not want to lose appeal within, or influence rather, they indefinitely suspended me. What does that mean? I don't know. I was in purgatory. I had no idea what I could go to, what I could attend, what
How
not.
destabilising. That
It's
must have
bizarre.
been a horrible time for you.
100%. You're cut
How
off.
did you feel?
You're cut off from all the group chats. You're cut off from any communication with colleagues, and you're told, given an ultimatum, literally, toe the party line, or give back your seat to Labor. What they didn't tell me is the third option was retain your seat and leave the party. And so when I found that out, I was like, hell yeah. You know, the same very party that has turned its back on its own members. Like, I was receiving letters of support from even the Prime Minister's branch of Leichhardt, the Labor branch.
Wow.
Right? People saying, hang in there, we support you 100%. People saying, Labor members saying, you were the only one who didn't cross the floor. All the other Labor senators crossed the floor because you stuck to our platform. And so it just comes down to, are we listening to our members, or are we so out of touch that we would turn our backs on them, right? So yeah, it was a very difficult time. I mean, mind you, I'm on blood pressure medication at the moment, because you feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And being a first termer, like, I'm not a Nepo baby in politics.
Yeah.
I'm not a career politician.
Yeah.
I'm here just to serve and do my job, right?
Wow.
And I've got another 3 years, got to make the most of it. And then whatever comes afterwards, you know, at least I've planted the seed within Australians to think you can break the two major party duopoly.
It's
you
huge.
can get
That was
outside
huge.
that. You know, your vote is not wasted when you vote for an independent. Your vote actually, with our preferential voting system, can actually have a more powerful message that it can send to the major parties, so that you're not taken for granted. And that education piece, that political literacy is so important.
So how do you see, 2025, what's the future of Australian Parliament looking like? What's the
Look,
future of
we're hoping,
politics?
as much as we've got a poor choice of, between Albo and Dutton, Albo is a tad bit better. I mean, Dutton's just next level. Even his own Liberal supporters are like, ugh. So the ideal situation would be to have a Labor minority government where, you know, hopefully yourself and other independents can hold the balance of power in the lower house. And that way, you know, like under Julie Gillard, a minority government, that she passed over 500 pieces of legislation. This government, under 300.
Really?
Like, go figure.
Yeah.
So hopefully the idea is to have a Labor minority government. And for us, it'd be important to push for bills like the Human Rights Bill, or Bill of Rights, where basically we're just protecting everyone's freedoms. But at the same time, we're calling for a public bank to be established. I know there are a few other minor parties that are on board with that idea. Scrapping HECS, right? That is the long-term goal. There are smaller milestones.
Scrapping it in what manner?
So when it comes to, say, the 20% that the Labor government has committed to, saying that should we get re-elected, we'll slash it by 20%. Why can't we increase that to 50%?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Then gradually work on making sure that, like the Scandinavian countries, we have free education for our students. There's just so many.
It feels exciting.
It's electrifying, and I feel like the way I like to let people know, Australia's voice senators look at us as goalkeepers, right? Like, you need bad bills to be blocked in the Senate, because a lot of the drama happens where the Prime Minister is, and that's usually lower house, and people forget the Senate exists. So it's like, I know the Senate's full of characters, but we get work done, right?
Proposed legislation comes up, goes through the lower house, so there's scrutiny there, then it goes to the upper house, scrutiny. So everything has a lot of eyes on it.
Supposed to, at least.
Supposed to. If there's just two major parties, there's fewer eyes and fewer ideas and contributions from across the country. And same at the upper house with you
100%.
Guys.
Yep. Because both major parties, at least with the Liberals, they have a conscience vote, so you see their senators cross the bench quite a bit. But with, say, the Labor Party, it's just, if that's the position of the party, I don't care what your personal position is, you've got to go with the party's position. An example that I would like to bring up was the mis and disinformation bill that was being rushed. And obviously there was a lot of talk before it was even presented. It had entered the Senate, but then it was pulled back because the government didn't have the support. Again, that's what happens when you've got such a massive bill that people want to engage with. But if you're rushing it, the senators are going to be like, my people are not happy for the government to dictate what their truth is, right? Like, what happened to democracy and freedom of speech and, you know, like when government overreach just crosses that boundary, people start freaking out, and rightfully so. And so I think a big message that we need to send to both major parties is you cannot ram through bills. Can't stress enough how important it is to have solid people in the Senate, but also people in the House of Reps, because currently the Labor Party have a majority with 77 seats. Now imagine getting 2-3 seats away from them and giving that to independents. Like, they will not get away with just doing shady deals with the Liberals.
God, it's so important.
Yeah, 100% for our democracy. People like you give me hope, knowing that there are strong independent voices on the ground, you know, that want to see that change. And they are taking that torch and saying, guys, I'm going to lead the way. I don't know what's lying ahead of me, but I'm brave enough and courageous enough to take that leap of faith and say, you know what, I'm going to do it. Right? Because we can't just wait for change to take place, Kate. We got to do it. And as strong, independent women,
we've got to get it together.
We do.
Thank you so much. Wow. I mean, it just feels nuts. It feels crazy. We've got to break it.
Oh, we will. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Every little break that we make in this, like what feels like an impenetrable wall, is for the good. And then we'll get some stuff done. But she's got some cool policies, and you know, she just wants to get people out of poverty and work for her community. And you know, I admire her, what she's done and how she's done it. And yeah, it was really nice. I had a really, you know, started the day at 7 a.m. waving
Yeah.
cool flutes at the side of the road.
You had a bit of a wobbly morning.
And then I went from there to Bibralate pre-poll, which was nice. It's so beautiful in Bibralate that it's just such a gorgeous place to be working, but it was searingly hot because I was dressed for very early morning side of the road. So, and then I went from there to Coburn, and that was nice, also searingly hot because you were standing in a car park. And then I thought, I think I'm going to pass out and maybe die. So I came home, laid down like I was in a coffin, set my alarm for 59 minutes, and then came to the office. And then
I so desperately needed that sleep.
chugged down some food, met Fatima. End of the day. I mean, I honestly, and I've got so many jobs to do that just need me to sit down in one spot. But
they get absolutely swallowed up the day.
And we've got the FOPWA talk tonight.
Meanwhile, I did not leave my computer. My fingers were glued to the keyboard literally from 8 a.m. till right now. So don't worry, I was.
How's the book going? Joking.
The book is not going.
So what else happened today while you're fixated on your little YouTube channel?
Well, oh God. Well, I was, as you have been, reading some fresh data, some new reports that dropped today
Big drops.
about housing
God.
and rental affordability in Western Australia and Fremantle specifically. 2 reports dropped today. One from Anglicare, WA, which is a look at the rental affordability crisis across Western Australia, and the other
Perth
from
Metro, that one is, isn't it?
Homes, Everyone's Home. What? Sorry.
It's called Everybody's Home.
Everybody's Home.
And that's specifically about Fremantle.
And they're an independent advocacy group that is national, but has been doing some marginal seat analysis across.
Interesting.
I
mean, even that is demonstrative of the impact of pressure on safe seats.
Totally.
I mean, we are not a marginal seat, actually. You know, we're a very safe seat. So they've seen the independent running and gone, that's now a marginal seat. There's someone there talking about the issues, so let's,
we need to
look at it. And that's, even that report is a brilliant outcome of this. You know, I was speaking to one of the volunteers at pre-poll today, and she was like, how are you feeling about Saturday or whatever? And I was like, to be honest, that in a way the outcome is, immaterial to this whole campaign that we've run. Like, just like this report and the people we've met and been able to speak to and the issues we've been able to talk about have been so brilliant for us. And, people writing to me going, I'm learning so much about our city or our suburb or our democracy. And I think, all right, that's
cool.
Job done, The Saturday night is, I can't, that's kind of a separate thing.
Well, it'll be a nice bonus when we win. But let's talk about the reports.
Okay, so
because they're pretty damning. Is the sad part. It's great that they've happened, but what's contained in them is quite depressing.
Yeah, some of the Freo stuff is incredibly. I mean, I guess we anecdotally share these stories with each other about my friend's rent went up $200 a week. But then when you see it compiled in a report and you're like, oh, that's actual data and there's these actual figures. You can't dispute them because it's the reality. And what over and over, Richard Dennis showed us that great graph of when What's a Majingo got put in.
The capital gains tax discount. The What's a Majingo.
Yeah. What's the other bit called?
Translation, negative gearing.
God, I honestly, put me down.
That is a great graph.
When the capital gains tax incentive was introduced.
The capital gains tax discount.
When that's partnered up with negative gearing, at that exact moment, house prices shoot up. And
it's compared with the wages line, which is, of course,
but that's
rising steadily or stagnant. Yeah.
The point is, there's data there. You can see that it's happening. You can see there's an issue. You can see what the cause of it is. Yet no one is doing anything about it, and it's just, it's unbelievable to me that they look at it, they see it. They're economists, people are showing them the figures, and they're like, "Yeah, that's cool. Keep it going, baby. We're fine with that." Anyway, back to the figures. So, I guess the most. I don't even know where to start. Renters. 58% of renters in Fremantle are in financial stress.
So it's saying 58% of people who are renting in Fremantle are in a situation where they are struggling to afford their rent.
So it's a proportionately large amount of their income is going on rent, which means then they've got less money for, I mean, rent is rent, but then you've got power, water, internet, petrol, car, food, school, and everything else you have to pay for every day. So they're being pushed into poverty. There's that. 33% of mortgage owners or mortgage holders are in financial stress. But the thing that I jotted down here, which was crazy, so the median house and unit price in Fremantle, so both combined, is $842. I guess that's a week. I just wrote down 842, which is unhelpful. Let's say a week. So the average price people are paying, that's everything together, units and houses in Fremantle, 842. The national average is 654. So we're way above in Fremantle what the average, the median national figure is. And that just seems crazy. And that's, you know, the Fremantle kind of electorate. Hideous.
Yeah, it's too high.
And the figure of 65% an increase in rents in Fremantle in 5 years. 65%. I mean, no one has earned more money that would match that. That's full crisis. That's full crisis.
Yeah, it is a crisis.
It's pushing people into hardship. And pushing people onto the streets. We've got more people sleeping on the streets than ever.
Yeah, well, when you get into that situation where you're under that much financial stress to afford your rent, not only is it pushing you into poverty, it's pushing you into insecurity. And, the reality of that is more people losing their homes, not knowing where to go, not having options.
I had a conversation with a woman at a protest I was at. And she said, she was in her 60s, and she said, I'm renting my home, but I've recently bought a van, and I'm going to go to a men's shed to learn how to fit it out so I can live in it, because I assume my rent's going to go up and I won't be able to afford it anymore. So I'm preparing for that circumstance. And I just thought, imagine living your life, you're in your 60s and you think, well, I'm going to be on the streets soon, so I better prepare for that. I mean, I couldn't stop thinking about that. I just, that's potentially our future, individually. I've got so little super because I haven't had a proper job that I'm not going to have proper money to support myself. So then that, I think, how have we let our population get to that situation where they're planning for homelessness? And, some people can go and stay on their pal's couch, or maybe their family member's got a spare room. But if you don't have that stuff, and then, well, I could sleep in the back of my car, and then, all the layers of stuff that happen, where do you have showers, and I don't have an address, so I can't apply for jobs, and my benefits, blah, 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 blah. It just becomes, and then next thing that door's quite nice, at least that's sheltered. And we really demonise poverty and people in poverty and homelessness, and it's really awful that we're even permitting people to get into that situation. And we are permitting it. It's a decision. We've made that decision.
Yeah, they are choices. And when you look at some of the stuff that's in the report, there are such clear drivers of the crisis and such clear solutions. And they're all laid out there for the taking. For, people have the ability to implement policy change.
And that, there's been decades of underinvestment and non-replacement of decommissioned houses. So the social housing, we spoke about this yesterday, is just gone down and down and down and down. So the government is not increasing the scale and pace of construction. So we are not fixing that problem.
And I think there's a tendency to say there's been recent investment in things and whatever. But when you look at it over time and you see the, complete disregard for it over decades, and then this tiny little scrap of attention given to it, it's there's not enough. It's not remotely addressing the issue. And I think there's a part in there that says that if the scale and pace doesn't increase, that we're going to be still dealing with this crisis in like some crazy number of years. I can't quite remember the...
Oh, we'll take decades, it says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Which I just can't understand the rationale behind that. Like, why would we want to be dragging our feet like that from a humanitarian perspective, but from any other perspective as well? You know? It's like...
I guess if you put more supply in, then house prices are going to go down. And no one wants to talk about house prices going down.
So what are some of the solutions that they outline?
All right, solutions. What is needed? I'm going to just talk Commonwealth because that's what we're talking here in the federal election. So first of all, ensure a livable income above the poverty line. So what they're saying is everyone on any kind of rental or any financial assistance from the government is in a poverty situation. There is not enough money coming in to pay for any rents in Australia. So that's super. So ensure a livable income. So raising the rate, which is, listen to this, including raising the rate of income support to $82 per day. I mean, what the flip?
And it is worth pointing out that in that other report, the Anglicare report, it is... The stat is given that there is not deemed to be a single appropriate and affordable house in the Perth metro area for someone who is on the minimum wage or on job seeker. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Not a single one.
No properties that someone on job seeker can afford. No properties that someone on a disability support pension can afford. There were 2 properties at the time of this snapshot that someone on an age pension could afford, but that would only be a single person, not a couple. If you're a waged person, there was 1 property that was appropriate, and if you had children, there was 1 property appropriate and 13 appropriate houses if you were just living by yourself in the whole of the Perth metro area. I mean, it's unreal. I was talking to my partner about it the other week, and he said it must have been like 2018 or something, he moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in West Leederville on Cambridge Street, and it was at the time in the world where he could negotiate down his rent. So he said, it was on the market, whatever, it was like $270 a week or something, and he said, I'll give you $240, and they took it, now people are literally like,
I'll give you $400.
I'll give you $500 cash right now, and then I'll give you $300 extra a week. And it's just like, it's that change is so dramatic, and in such a 5-year short time span. Anyway, back to solutions. So livable income. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer. There's something called the National Rental Affordability Scheme, and that is whereby the government subsidises private entities that have properties. So they go, oh, Emma, you've got 10 houses. We'll give you a bit of money if you drop your rent and rent it out to people who are needing it. That's finishing next year, so that's cool. That was a 10-year scheme that is now at the end of its lifespan.
Advocates are saying that it should continue.
Again, we talked about this yesterday, fair tax system, so they're suggesting over time decrease the capital gains tax discount so that eventually it becomes gone, and then potentially restrict its application. So maybe if you've got 100 houses, you only get your capital gains on 2 of them or something like that, I think we have to look at everything, like put all these ideas on the table and go, is that achievable? Is that fair? Is that helpful? What can we do? Tax system seems like where the government's in charge the most and it isn't fair, so let's make it fair.
And often I reckon there's a lot of like fear mongering around something like capital gains tax discount, where there's a way of painting it that if you touch it, it's like mums and dads, investors are. But we're not really, that's not what anyone's really talking about. We're talking about like property investors who own, tens and tens of houses, and not people who've, bought a couple of houses and, maybe their kids live in one or whatever. Like there's obviously lots of different scenarios. But that fear mongering around it is so unproductive. And, and that is an example of, what we've already spent a lot of time talking about, which is how the major parties like to shut down the narrative around structural reform.
And it's like, if you go, right, there's lots of different circumstances and some feel fairer than others. Like a family might have a house in Fremantle and maybe they've got a farm or whatever, you know, maybe they've got a little house down south and maybe they were left one in Melbourne when their mum died or something, you know, like, and you go, well, that's one circumstance. And then some people just like buy apartments. They don't even know, they've just got a spreadsheet of properties. But when it, you know, and I think we could potentially look at them and go, right, you're exempt, that's no, yes, this one, you know, and there's different kind of, I don't know, permissions on certain things, whatever it is. But, and that people go, oh, that's impossible, too much time, too much effort. But then when it comes to, say, someone asking for job seeker or job keeper or any of those things, you've got to jump through every hoop known to man. Some are on fire, some are made of, you know, barbed wire, and you've got to tick every box and, you know, send in evidence of this and that and the other, like so intensive for both parties. And that's fine because we're trying to save $87 a day or whatever it is. But for, what was the
cost?
Was that in here? The capital?
I think so, yeah.
So Australia loses $11 billion annually due to negative gearing and capital gains tax discounts, which could be used to provide housing for those who need it. So $11 billion is just going out through the parameters which are set by the government, $11 billion a year. I mean, that would just be completely transformative to our whole country if that was recouped and invested back in. And as we keep saying, public housing and housing people improves everyone's lives. It raises everything. And as I keep saying, why do people not want to make that their legacy, you know? I put everyone in a house. I've ended homelessness. I've raised every Australian out of poverty. I mean, I just can't believe why that wouldn't be a cool objective. A proud objective, you know? Anyway. I guess not. They made some people really rich and that's pretty good. Really nuts. Anyway, I mean, meanwhile, polling's showing that Dutton's absolutely crashing and burning and, you know, we're in severe danger of heading for a Labor majority, so we just need to pick people to...
Get people to pick you.
Any
that was a hard pivot, by the way.
I just feel like...
You didn't tell me you were going to do that
how do you, you know...
I wasn't prepared.
How do you fix that, you know? It's not the two parties. They have this information, they know it, they study it, they've got experts talking to them, lobbying them, meeting them, and they're not doing anything about it. And
what makes you, like, you're, you know, someone who has a lot of friends and family and people you love who are in renting scenarios, and I hear you talk about it a lot. Surely it makes you angry.
It's, I mean, it's infuriating. When your rent suddenly jumps up hundreds of dollars a week, whether you're salaried or not, that's impacting on every part of you. And of course, then it means, as someone with a small business, there's people who have got less money to spend in your small business. So then you have to maybe cut down your staff, or you've got to maybe stop buying so many products from local makers, whatever it might be. Then that impacts that person whose hours you cut. Then they can't, you know, and it's just the trickle down badness of not being able to just live comfortably in your home and pay your rent and just the basics covered is... It affects everything in every way. And, you know, every conversation we have with everyone and we say, what's your big issue? And they say, housing. And that's because, I mean, really it's a cost of living catchphrase because if your housing's sorted, you know, it just impacts so much, so much. Mental health, domestic violence, diseases of despair, education, psychology, general well-being and happiness. And that's just what we want we live in this beautiful place. The disparity and inequity is so stark and it really needn't be that way. And I think that there needs to be all the levers pulled to make our lives better. We don't all need to be absolutely rolling in cash, but we need to be able to sleep soundly and not worry about, you know, having to not pay the bills. or not being able to pay the bills. It's so, I mean, people kill themselves over not being, financial stress. And then you go, oh, I'll start, maybe if I invest here, or I'll do some dodgy gambling, or I'll sell this thing, or I'll start getting into, I can make some money that way. And then people start making really bad decisions, or then they start drinking, or they start like trying to alleviate their stress from other ways. And it's just, it's so impactful. Just the housing is the very base, and being able to afford housing and be able to access housing. And we have slowly taken that away from people. And now it's almost baked into our country.
I reckon also because, and this is maybe the last thing I'll say, but it just struck me as you were saying that, I reckon because of how we've like shifted the way that we think about housing so extremely in Australia to be something you invest in rather than a human right that everyone deserves to access, people view people who don't have housing as having failed in life.
Absolutely.
Rather than as having been victims of a system that is completely geared against first home buyers and everyone else who's, struggling to get into rentals or to buy a home. And that is a huge problem because it's an attitudinal thing that needs to change along with all of the policy levers that
It's like people buy gold as an investment. But imagine if gold was food and then someone's just got this big pile of gold and people are like, well, I can't afford the gold and now I can't eat. And now I'll die because I can't get the gold that you're hoarding. And that's how we're treating houses. It's like, well, I'm going to hoard all the houses, but stuff you.
I reckon it's like just summed up in the statement that's in that report,
Front
which
page.
is literally just like
In Western Australia,
no,
yeah.
not that bit.
I'm going to read this as well. In Western Australia, we live in the wealthiest state in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. But it's time to ensure people have access to safe, secure and affordable rental homes, and everyone deserves access to affordable and appropriate homes. Yeah, I mean, if that was the front page of the government's manifesto, that'd be pretty good. I mean, that's a great start. Everyone deserves access to affordable and appropriate homes. And in Western Australia, we live in the wealthiest state in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I mean, it doesn't seem unreasonable. I mean, I walked home last night from the thing we were at, and in the doorway next to my shop, someone was sleeping in the door. I mean, it just, crazy. But of course, if the median price of homes is $842 a week, how the hell will that person ever be able to afford? Anyway, but they can't. I mean, they're condemned to be on the streets. I mean, we're sitting in the dark now. So
I know.
Wonder if...
we could go on, but I reckon we'll wrap it up. And also, you've got to get to an event tonight.
God.
So let's call it.
5 to 6.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, we've got to go.
Like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Sign up to volunteer. We still need volunteers. Thursday night briefing, Saturday election day. We need all of you. Come and get Kate to Canberra so we can fix the housing crisis.
Tell a friend about the election. Tell a friend about independent candidates. There's still 31% of people that haven't made up their minds.
That's it. We've got to convince them all.
They're looking to their pals who
they trust and love.
Yep, and who are educated. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace out. That's what you just did with your hands. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.